Hi there, I'm Brad. I'm at a very chilled out zone at the Bristol Show 2024. I'm joined by the Hi-Fi Diva, Lyn Stanley. Welcome to the show, Lyn.
Thank you very much, Brad. I'm glad.
It's lovely to have you. And as a show first, you're one of the first artists that we've ever had with a room here. But you're not just an artist. Well, tell us a bit about what you do.
I guess I'm more of a geek, aren't I, in a way? Yeah, I was very technical always growing up, and I had an audiophile stepfather. And at 12, he married my mother, and I was given strict rules about his equipment. And he was very successful in his work, and we had two major systems in the house. And one of them was a Macintosh, and the kit was all exotic. And if I was taught exactly how, if I wanted to play a record, how to do it, don't mess with him. Otherwise, I lost the privilege. It was a privilege. Yeah. It was a privilege to do it. And I had the responsibility of cleaning the entire house when I was young. And the only way I would do it is if I could play music and sing to get my mind off what I was doing at 12 and 13. So I didn't want to lose that privilege. So for me, learning from him and all the technical things that he did, he was a ham. He had a degree from Purdue University as a PhD in chemical engineering, but he was also very good with electronics, and he made ham radios from scratch, that kind of thing. Yeah. So having someone around that technical gave me really a wonderful edge on understanding the dynamics and what goes into the thought process and the planning that goes into creating a sensational system. Yeah. So I've used that information now when I do my recordings. So when I go into a studio, unlike other artists who just turn it over to a producer, I'm in the moment. I'm in with the engineer. I'm checking everything they're doing. I'm checking the tapes, how they're making it. I'm on it. Yeah.
Is it safe to say that when you're doing these recordings, you're not just thinking about, you're not in the moment in the song necessarily in the studio, you're also thinking about how it will sound to the consumer, to the listener? That's part of it.
What I do is I will have a test run, and on that test run, I'm checking all that out. And then when we actually go to the recording side of doing something, I get into the moment. Yeah. But I won't do it until I'm certain that everything is clear. I did a direct-to-disc, and that's one of the most challenging things you can ever do as an artist. We took over Bernie Grunman's studio. Wow. And he vacated all of his engineers. Yeah. And we took over their rooms. Yeah. And Alan Sides was the engineer in charge of it. And we moved all of the cables, and everything had to go into a separate room. I was in a separate room, and Alan was mixing at the moment, and Bernie was burning it onto the lacquer at the moment. Wow. It was a most dynamic thing. And we had so many stories on that episode of my career. But I had bronchitis and like first stage pneumonia. Wow. And I was coughing in that album, and I had to go way in the corner, and I coughed in my jacket, and you can still hear it on that album. It was my life.
That's all part of the magic. You're there with you in the room. So do you? I suppose this is a very difficult question. Would you say you prefer performing live, or do you prefer being in the studio and getting it to what we're listening here in the background?
The hard part about performing live is when you're an independent, you are responsible for filling the room. When you're working with a label, they're responsible for filling the room. When you're doing a studio recording, it's very creative, especially the way I do it. All of my, today, in the latter part of my album discography, have been all about the musicians and me creating the arrangements. So we do it live, and that's very exciting. And to have it documented by recording makes it even more so. When we're performing live, people want to hear the things the way you recorded them originally, so it's not quite as exciting from that point of view. It's lovely to be with the people and get their feedback on and appreciation for what I do. And I do perform around the world, as you know, but it is very exciting to do studio recordings. Yeah.
And obviously, that leads us quite nicely onto the fact that you're here, with your albums, but you're also demonstrating the difference between MP3 and all the audio formats. And you're actually just educating here, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, part of my before singing career, remember, I've only done this for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't know I could sing.
Oh, really? Really?
I did not have a
You
clue.
just kept it cleaning.
I kept it clean. Yeah. No, I was actually a college professor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, but I had an eclectic, kind of a Renaissance woman. I had an eclectic group of careers built around trying to find one that I liked, really, at the end of the day. But I spent 10 years in the advertising industry.
Okay.
So, and then from there, I was marketing on client side with major companies, Fortune 500s. So, but when I finally got to the singing part, I'm like locked in now. So that part's all good. It's been a journey at the end of the day because I had to learn. Even though my stepfather, he didn't know anything about recording. So all he knew is that the music sounded good that he was playing, and he did a lot of Sinatra, a lot of instrumentals, classical music with Mozart, Chopin, all that in the house. But when it came to the recording and teaching me, he never did that. So I had to, feet on the ground and understand and read a lot of the hi-fi magazines and what people were looking for by the reviewers and also by the people making the equipment. So that's why I started MP3s. I'm showing them at the show because I do have a USB drive now. And I show the difference on the USB drive between an MP3 and a 1644, which is 8 times more information, right? And I'm trying to educate the people at the show that if you want to tell your kids that the MP3s on Spotify can be much better if you go to get the actual physical product. And plus, the physical product, when you buy it, enhances the artist's coffers, so to speak, because we don't make any money on those streams, generally speaking. So, but then I'm also demonstrating an SACD here, with the DSD file and the 1644 on it, and also it's got the 24 192s. That's the digital side, and then I bring them into the analog arena, which is I record analog. So I bring them into the LPs, and I have a one-step that I'm showcasing at this show with 3 discs in it. Wow. I think I'm the first 3-disc one-step person too. But also we're doing it on reel-to-reel, which you can see here.
You can see behind his head.
Yeah.
Do you have a guilty pleasure song that you like to listen to?
Guilty pleasure.
Is there one that, particularly you'll find yourself dancing around the kitchen singing at the top of your lungs?
In my own repertoire?
Oh, well, it could be yours or anyone else's.
Well, if it's someone else's, I've already probably recorded it because I did that kind of first. Things that pop in my head are generally I'm working on a new album, and it's called 1924, and I'm doing a very slow version of T for Two. Okay. And I'm doing a crazy, wild African sound for a song called What'll I Do? And I'm taking another song, very old. These are all 100-year-old songs. I'm taking it from All Alone, which is with sappy Broadway. I'm turning it into a blues song.
Do you think you would do the same for artists like Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish and give it your own twang?
I will. That's
a threat. I will.
I will. I actually am. I talked to a woman who's a vocal production coach. Now she doesn't teach you singing, but production. She's on staff when you're doing your vocals, and only that day, for instance. And I called her up, and she works in Nashville. And I called her up and said, okay, now we're moving to the blues arena. What do I need to do? And so I've got to go back to the drawing board to make sure that I can give the Brenda Lee or the Patsy Cline, understanding how they delivered more of a bluesy edge to the song. And I'm going to do it,
Well, I look forward to it. And where can our viewers sample your music?
I'm on Spotify, Tidal, some on Kobu's, some. I'm on Pandora, all of the channels. I'm all over.
And they can buy your records and CDs online, presumably?
You can. You can just Google it and it'll come up. But also on my website, lynstanley.com.
And perhaps we'll see you next year at Bristol Show 2025?
If I can talk these guys into helping me again.
We'll love to have you back. And Lyn, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And thank you. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys. Bye now.